The apocalypse struck suddenly, and a massive number of regressors were reborn at the exact same time. With memories of their past lives, they had stockpiled all kinds of supplies long before the disaster hit. Meanwhile, ordinary people like us could only wait for fate's judgment. Most would instantly turn into zombies. The few who didn't mutate would be left struggling to survive on their last breaths in the wasteland. I was one of those ordinary people. I couldn't secure any supplies. I was fully prepared to just lie down and accept my fate, but heaven opened another door for me. Even as an ordinary person, I can absolutely crush you regressors and awakened espers. You guys hoard supplies? I hoard zombies. You avoid zombies like the plague? To me, every zombie is a treasure. I had been working overtime for a solid week, my head spinning and pounding. Calling corporate wage slaves beasts of burden is an insult to actual beasts. If a horse or an ox throws a temper tantrum, its owner still has to coax and feed it. Us, we don't get that kind of treatment. Finally, I made it to the weekend. I turned off my alarm, fully intending to sleep until the end of time. But bright and early in the morning, a piercing hammering sound came from outside my window, violently dragging me out of a dream where I had just won $100 million. Renovations are banned on weekends. Who the hell is hammering coffin boards out there? Needed in a hurry? I fumbled for my phone and called property management. No answer. I dialed several times. Still nothing. My sleep was completely ruined. The hammering was driving me insane. Grumbling, I got up, washed my face, changed clothes, and headed downstairs to buy breakfast. The moment I stepped out of my apartment building, I froze. No wonder it was so loud. The residential complex was incredibly lively. Crowds of people were rushing through the corridors, carrying massive bags and boxes, moving at a frantic pace. Mounds of supplies were piled up outside dozens of doors. Rice, flour, cooking oil, bottled water, compressed biscuits, canned food, snacks. Was the whole country opening convenience stores today? I caught sight of my neighbor from the third floor, Brother Wong. Sweating profusely, he was hauling a massive sack of rice toward his apartment. We knew each other decently well, so I called out to him. Brother Wong, what's going on this early? Why are you buying so much stuff? Brother Wong stopped in his tracks, nervously looking left and right before lowering his voice. You don't know? The rumors are going crazy. Tonight at midnight, the apocalypse officially begins. I was dumbfounded. The apocalypse? Brother Wong, who told you that nonsense? He didn't bother explaining further. Shaking his head, he hurried upstairs. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through social media. The trending topics had completely exploded. The top post read, "My brother is a regressor. Warning, global cataclysm hits tonight at midnight." At first, the comment section was full of mockery. LMAO, reading too many web novels. Can we get some more believable rumors, please? But as I scrolled down, the tone had completely reversed. It's real? My friend regressed too. Same here. Uniform warning, tonight at midnight. No one was joking anymore. Panic was spreading like a tidal wave. Within just an hour or two, a panic-buying frenzy swept the entire city. Supermarkets, convenience stores, and wet markets were packed to the brim, and survival supplies were wiped out in an instant. Looking at the empty shelves on my phone screen, I started to panic too. Better safe than sorry. But by the time I snapped to my senses and rushed out, most stores were already shuttered. The few that were still open didn't even have a single sausage left on the shelves. The government issued emergency statements debunking the rumors, but it was useless. Fighting tooth and nail, I only managed to grab a multi-pack of instant noodles and a few packs of sausages. Back in my tiny rental apartment, I took inventory. 2 cans of Spam, 3 bottles of cold beer, and 2 packs of cigarettes. So fucking pathetic. Whatever. If the apocalypse was real, then this was my fate. If I instantly turned into a zombie, hoarding a mountain of food would be pointless anyway. I slumped onto the sofa and kept scrolling on my phone. The truth was surfacing. This time, there weren't just 1 or 2 regressors. There were a massive number of them. All of them carried memories of surviving the apocalypse for 3, 5, or 10 years, and they had uniformly regressed back to 7 a.m. this morning. If one person says it, it's a rumor. If a massive group of complete strangers all say the exact same thing, it's impossible to be a coincidence. The netizens in the comment sections had completely given up. I'm done. Ordinary people are basically just gambling with their lives. Regressors get early admission, and we're taking the final exam blind. I'm not hoarding anything. Just gonna lie down and wait for midnight. If I don't turn into a zombie, I'm heading straight to a regressor's house at dawn to loot their stuff. Someone also leaked intel. After the cataclysm, a tiny fraction of humanity would awaken special powers, espers. Additionally, white crystals would form inside the bodies of certain zombies, but in their past lives, no one knew what they were actually used for. Bombarded by these revelations, the public was in a state of absolute terror. Late at night, the entire city fell into a dead silence. Every household had their doors and windows locked tight. Everyone held their breath, waiting for fate's judgment. I sat on the sofa, my heart pounding, my palms sweating. Midnight struck. The cataclysm arrived right on schedule. In a fraction of a second, the pitch-black night sky violently ruptured, and the entire horizon lit up as bright as day. Blinding white light engulfed everything. The instant the light flared, it felt as if a massive hand had violently crushed my heart. A suffocating sensation swept through my entire body. I'm done. I'm turning into a zombie. A few seconds later, the light faded. The suffocation vanished along with it. I actually survived. I didn't mutate. Outside, the dead silence remained unbroken. Having been tense all night, I felt physically and mentally exhausted. I stood up to use the bathroom. The moment I pushed open the bathroom door, I completely froze. My bathroom was gone. My cramped little bathroom had transformed into a boundless, ancient mountain forest. Towering, primeval trees reached for the sky, mist drifted through the air, and the woods stretched as far as the eye could see. Thinking I was hallucinating, I closed the door, shut my eyes, took a deep breath, and pushed it open again. Still a mountain forest. The entire internet had been warning of a zombie apocalypse. Why did I get an ice sky portal? Hesitantly, I took half a step forward. The forest was eerily quiet. There were no chirping bugs or singing birds, but I didn't sense even a trace of danger. Curiosity overpowered my fear. I lifted my foot and walked inside. I looked back over my shoulder. Behind me wasn't my apartment door, but a quaint, tiny stone hut measuring just a few square meters. Unrecognizable symbols were carved into the stone walls. Looking through the doorway of the stone hut, I could clearly see the interior of my rental apartment. A single door separating two worlds. I walked back and forth a few times, passing through with absolute ease. I knew it. The classic web novel tropes never fail. In a global apocalypse where everyone was gambling with their lives, I didn't mutate, I didn't die, and I unlocked a unique dimensional pocket realm. If that was the case, this pocket realm had to be something extraordinary. Suppressing my excitement, I ventured deeper into the mountain forest. I had barely walked 100 meters when a silhouette appeared under an ancient tree. I jumped in shock. It was a handsome young man wearing a simple, ancient Taoist robe, exuding an otherworldly aura. Before I could speak, he looked at me, utterly shocked. "Did you just walk out of the stone hut?" I nodded. He stared dead at me, looking me up and down for a long time, his gaze sharp as a knife. "You are indeed a mere mortal," he finally spoke, his voice unhurried. "Yet, how are you able to traverse the spirit vein array as you please?" "What spirit vein array?" I was confused. He raised a hand and pointed at the stone hut. I turned to look at the crumbling little shack. "That thing is a spirit vein array. Also, who are you, bro?" The young man sighed. "I am a cultivator. My surname is Lee." Holy shit. Cultivation. My brain buzzed. This is high-tier gameplay. I swallowed hard. "Senior Lee, where exactly is this place? And why are you here?" He let out a soft sigh and slowly explained the situation. It turned out this Senior Lee was a late-stage soul formation cultivator. While undergoing his heavenly tribulation to ascend, he was sucked into this pocket realm, trapped here for exactly 300 years. That stone hut was a high-tier teleportation array, but with his current cultivation base, he couldn't open it. "I have the door open right now. Can you still not go through?" He smiled bitterly. "The array runes have not reacted to me in the slightest. As for why you can come and go as you please, I do not know. Then is there anything I can help you with?" He slowly shook his head. "As a mere mortal, how could you possibly aid me?" I sighed. "Actually, my world just had a massive catastrophe. Millions of people turned into walking corpses overnight, and surviving as an ordinary person is basically a 9 in 10 chance of death. Seniorly frowned. Catastrophe? What kind of catastrophe? I explained the zombie outbreak. His eyes flashed. Those walking corpses, do they have white crystals inside their bodies? I was stunned. How did you know? They truly exist. He threw his head back and laughed loudly. Excellent. There is hope for my escape. Those white crystals are useful to you. Useful? Incredibly useful. He grabbed my wrist. Those are crystals formed from condensed heaven and earth spirit chi. When the world undergoes cataclysmic changes, some mortal bodies absorb the ambient chi, condensing it within. The price, however, is the dissipation of their life force and the fracturing of their souls, turning them into walking corpses. But to us cultivators, if we purify those crystals and use them to cultivate, our power will skyrocket at a terrifying pace. He let go of my wrist and took a deep breath. The spirit chi in this pocket realm has completely dried up, but I can feel it. This realm accelerates the speed of cultivation. It is many times faster than the outside world. My heart skipped a beat. Doesn't that mean I'll age super fast? No. It only accelerates the process of cultivation. It is detached from the flow of time. I observed you. Since you entered, you haven't aged a second. I let out a massive sigh of relief. He continued, if my young friend can bring back some of those crystals for me, cultivating in this realm will multiply my breakthrough speed. In exchange, I will teach you the introductory methods of immortal cultivation. Cultivation. My heart raced. But as soon as the excitement surged, logic pulled me back. I'm just a normal guy, and those zombies are fierce. I don't think I can beat them. No matter. He smiled faintly. Reaching into his robe, he pulled out a thick stack of glowing talismans. These fire talismans can easily slay walking corpses. I also have flight talismans and invisibility talismans to ensure your survival. He taught me how to use them step by step. The incantations weren't hard. Form the hand seals, throw the talisman, channel spiritual energy. I mastered it after just a short practice session. Testing it in the realm, I threw a fire talisman. Boom. A massive fireball erupted, nearly singeing my eyebrows off. Clutching the thick stack of talismans, my palms were sweating, but a fire was burning in my chest. Wait here. I'll go right now. He nodded slowly. I turned around, went back to my apartment, and closed the door. I stuffed the talismans into my pockets and grabbed a heavy meat cleaver, tucking it into the back of my pants. I carefully pulled open my front door. The hallway was chillingly quiet. I crept down the stairs. As I passed certain floors, I could hear dull thuds and low growls coming from inside the apartments. Those places definitely had zombies. I finally made it out of the stairwell. The residential complex was dead silent. Suddenly, I noticed a figure squatting near a wall. Its movements were stiff, and its throat continuously emitted a low GHH. GHH, growl. A zombie. I swallowed hard and slowly crept closer. When I was about 7 or 8 meters away, it violently snapped its head around. Its eye sockets were almost entirely white, pupils shrunk to the size of peas. Its face was heavily contorted, 2 fangs jutting past its lips, thick saliva stringing from its mouth. It saw that I was a living human and charged at me like a rabid animal. I pulled out a fire talisman, formed the hand seal, and threw it. The talisman slapped onto its chest. Boom! Scorching flames erupted, instantly engulfing the zombie. It writhed and shrieked wildly in the fire, and within just a few breaths, it was reduced to a pile of black ash. I stood frozen for 2 seconds. It was my first time experiencing something like this, and my legs felt a bit like jelly. Once I regained my composure, I grabbed a tree branch and poked through the ashes. A white stone the size of a goose egg rolled out. It worked. First blood. Over the next hour, I ran into 4 more straggler zombies outside and burned them all with fire talismans. With 5 spirit stones in my pocket, I went back to my apartment and entered the pocket realm. Seniorly took the spirit stones, his fingers moving in a blur. Several flashes of spiritual light sparked, and the dull, dusty stones transformed into pure white, crystal-clear gems. Excellent. The heavens are helping me. His eyes burned with passion. Young friend, the more of these spirit stones, the better. You may have as many talismans as you need. Just ask. Seniorly, Could you pass down some basic cultivation techniques to me? Compared to consumable talismans, a technique that permanently increased my own strength was the true foundation. He waved his hand, and a parchment scroll floated over to me, the chi-gathering mantra. This technique draws chi into the body and is suited for a mortal frame. You hunt the walking corpses and bring back the crystals, and I will purify them for you. You may then rely on the spirit stones to cultivate. Once you successfully draw chi into your body, you will be able to fight the walking corpses alone, without relying on talismans. I solemnly accepted the scroll and thanked him repeatedly. The 5 purified spirit crystals were enough to support the initial stage of my cultivation. Sitting cross-legged on the ground, I circulated the mantra. Spirit chi surged into my body, washing through my meridians. A warm, comfortable sensation coursed through me, instantly purging a week's worth of exhaustion and soreness. The pocket realm naturally accelerated cultivation. 2 hours later, I slowly opened my eyes. I had successfully stepped into the first layer of chi gathering. My physical constitution completely surpassed that of an ordinary human. My strength, speed, and reaction time had all increased by 30%. Taking on 2 normal zombies in hand-to-hand combat would be a breeze. Outside, it was 7 a.m. The survivors in the city were beginning to band together, and awakened espers were starting to make their mark. But as for me, I had already stepped onto the path of immortal cultivation. After resting, I headed out again to hunt for crystals. Buffed by the first layer of chi gathering, I gripped my meat cleaver. Relying on my superhuman reaction speed, I accurately hacked through zombie skulls. In just 1 hour, I secured 12 common crystals. Just as I was about to enter a convenience store to scavenge for supplies, 5 people armed with bats and a fire axe blocked my path. The leading man was tall and bulky, carrying a heavily stuffed backpack. One look, and I knew he was a regressor. Brother, seeing you moving alone, I assume you haven't awakened any powers, right? The city is getting swarmed with zombies. Want to join our squad? We're regressors. We know exactly what's going to happen in the future. The man's tone seemed friendly, but his eyes were darting over me, assessing if I was carrying any valuable supplies. No need. I politely declined and tried to walk around them. A girl with short hair stepped up, her voice cold. Ordinary people who dare to hunt zombies alone don't exist. You must have collected quite a bit of stuff, right? Be smart and hand it over. In this 5-person regressor squad, 2 had awakened powers, strength, and speed. In the early game, that made them top-tier combatants. They had relied on brute force to rob numerous solo survivors along the way. The leader waved his hand, and 3 of them moved into a triangular formation, cutting off my retreat. Don't refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. The rules of the apocalypse have changed. The weak are prey to the strong. We only want your supplies. Cooperate, and we won't have a problem. I slowly tightened my grip on the meat cleaver. The power of a first-layer chi cultivator flowed through my limbs. If you make a move, you'll suffer the consequences. Arrogant. The burly strength esper charged first, throwing a punch backed by enhanced power straight at my chest. In front of a chi cultivator, that speed is way too slow. I shifted my feet, easily dodging the blow, and raised my hand, slapping my palm against his forearm. Crack. The sound of fracturing bone rang out sharply. The burly man screamed in agony, his arm dropping limply to his side. With a single move, I crippled an esper. The remaining 4 were utterly shocked. You're not an ordinary person. You awakened a high-tier power. The leader's face turned serious, and he gripped his fire axe. I didn't want to waste time with them. I pulled out an invisibility talisman and activated it. A faint white halo enveloped my body, and I vanished instantly. The 5 of them plunged into massive panic. In their past lives, an invisibility power appearing this early in the apocalypse was absolutely impossible. Under the cover of invisibility, I slipped behind them and used the blunt side of my cleaver to strike the back of their necks one by one. With a few muffled thuds, all 5 of them collapsed unconscious to the ground. I took the small notebook they used to record future intel. I didn't bother looting their supplies. I just turned and left. Flipping through the notebook, it recorded the spawn locations of future mutant zombies, the coordinates of hidden supply depots, and the leaderboard of the first batch of Awakened Espers. This intel was incredibly useful to me. Entering the convenience store, the shelves had long been cleared out. In a corner of the storage room, I found a few cases of bottled water and compressed biscuits, packed them up, and left. Back in my room, I brought 20 crystals into the pocket realm. As Seniorly purified them, he noticed something different about me. Did you get into a conflict with others? A squad of regressors tried to rob me, so I neutralized them. I also got some critical intel. Tier 1 mutant zombies are going to appear in the city very soon. Seniorly glanced at the notebook. The crystals inside mutant walking corpses have a spirit chi concentration 3 times higher than the ordinary ones. Once your cultivation reaches the 3rd layer of chi gathering, you will be able to slay them alone. Over the next day, I relied on the 5 purified spirit crystals to cultivate with everything I had. Circulating the chi gathering mantra, my cultivation broke through to the 2nd layer of chi gathering. My physical strength took a massive leap, and my senses sharpened. I could clearly detect the movements of any zombie within a 50-meter radius. Outside, the sky was gradually brightening. The apocalypse had barely lasted a day, and the city was already in complete ruins. Zombies roamed, cars were wrecked, and the brutal reality of the apocalypse was unfolding. In the major survivor community chats, someone had already reported sighting a Tier 1 mutant zombie. A sprinter zombie had appeared in the downtown pedestrian street. Several espers had to join forces just to barely kill it. Following the coordinates in the notebook, I headed toward the downtown pedestrian street to hunt a mutant zombie. The sensory capabilities of the 2nd layer allowed me to easily bypass large zombie hordes, and I advanced by leaping across the rooftops of commercial buildings, arriving at the street half an hour later. In the middle of the pedestrian street, an ash-gray sprinter mutant zombie was moving at high speed. It was being besieged by over a dozen survivors. 2 of them had already been clawed, their wounds festering. In the crowd, I spotted the exact same regressor squad I had knocked out earlier. The leader's arm was bandaged, and his face was grim. The short-haired girl yelled anxiously, "If we keep dragging this out, we're all going to die here. Does anyone have a trump card left?" Just as the sprinter zombie lunged violently to bite a survivor, I leaped down from the 2nd floor, gathering spirit chi into my fist, and slammed it straight into the zombie's back. The zombie spun around wildly, slashing its claws at my throat. Its speed was indeed fast, but against a 2nd layer chi cultivator, it still fell short. I sidestepped the attack and smashed my elbow brutally into the side of the zombie's head. The massive impact sent the mutant stumbling back several steps. Its skull caved in. "It's you," the regressor captain shouted, a mix of shock and anger on his face. I ignored him, channeling all my spirit chi and going on the offensive. The superhuman reaction speed granted by the 2nd layer allowed me to accurately predict the zombie's movements. In just 3 short minutes, the mutant zombie was covered in injuries. Sensing its stamina was depleted, I leaped into the air and drove my knee violently into its skull, shattering it completely. The ash-gray body collapsed. In the center of its destroyed brain tissue, a crystal emitting a faint cyan glow lay quietly. A Tier 1 mutant spirit crystal. I stepped forward, pocketed it, and turned to look at the group. "You're safe now. You can leave." The captain stared at the crystal in my hand, gritting his teeth. "Thank you for saving our lives." He then quickly ordered his team to retreat. I left the city center and returned to the pocket realm. Seeing the cyan spirit crystal, Seniorly looked elated. A Tier 1 mutant crystal. Its spirit chi concentration is equal to 3 ordinary crystals. By cultivating with this, you can break through to the 3rd layer of chi gathering. I sat cross-legged and meditated. A massive wave of spirit chi flooded my meridians, continuously expanding my chi si. The cultivation lasted for over 20 hours. Outside, it was already the 3rd day of the apocalypse. When I slowly opened my eyes, a stable vortex of spirit chi had condensed in my dantian, 3rd layer of chi gathering. At this moment, my comprehensive combat power had already surpassed the vast majority of current espers. At the 3rd layer of chi gathering, you can learn to project your spirit chi outward, Seniorly instructed. Focus the spirit chi at your fingertips to form a chi blade. An hour later, I had mastered it, a faint white chi blade, 3 inches long, condensed at my fingertips. Its sharpness far exceeded that of a stainless steel knife. Before I left, Seniorly tossed me a small cloth pouch. This is a storage bag. You can use your spiritual energy to store and retrieve items. This is top-tier loot. I don't have to carry heavy backpacks anymore. I accepted the storage bag, thanked Seniorly profusely, and left the pocket realm. Checking my phone and scrolling through the community chats, Regressors had already leaked the news that the mist was about to descend, plunging the survivors into a new wave of panic. I planned my route. Head to the abandoned industrial park in the west of the city. A massive number of ordinary zombies were gathered there, along with 2 unawakened tier 1 mutant zombies. It was the perfect place to harvest spirit crystals. The park also housed an undiscovered strategic supply depot. Empowered by the 3rd layer of chi gathering, the scattered zombies on the streets posed zero threat. With casual swipes of my chi blade, I instantly slaughtered the walking corpses. Along the way, I saw numerous solo survivors who had fallen by the roadside, becoming zombie food. In an apocalypse without the constraints of law and order, the darkness of human nature was infinitely magnified. I arrived at the abandoned industrial park in the west of the city. The park was shrouded in dead silence, the air heavy with the stench of blood. My spirit chi senses detected the auras of at least 100 zombies, along with 2 distinct energy signatures significantly stronger than the rest, my targets, tier 1 mutants. I decided to clear the perimeter first. Entering the first abandoned factory building, over a dozen ordinary zombies heard my footsteps and closed in. I swung my chi blade. A flash of white light cut through the air, and the zombies dropped dead. The hunting efficiency of the 3rd layer was several times higher than before. In 20 minutes, I secured 18 ordinary crystals. As I prepared to enter the 2nd building, the ground began to tremble. Dense, guttural roars echoed from deep within the park. I leaped onto the rooftop platform of the factory. 70 or 80 zombies had formed a horde and were moving outward. Leading them were the 2 tier 1 mutant zombies, 1 sprinter type and 1 strength type. If a massive zombie horde like this broke out, it would bring utter devastation to the nearby survivor bases. I decided to intercept them right here. The 2 mutant zombies noticed me and immediately ordered the horde to attack the building. The strength type violently rammed the support pillars, causing cracks to spiderweb across the concrete walls. I held nothing back. I pulled out a lightning talisman and activated it. A bolt of purple heavenly lightning crashed down, striking the center of the horde. The paralyzing effect of the lightning instantly stiffened dozens of zombies. I leaped down, continuously swinging my chi blade, reaping lives with blistering speed. In just a few minutes, I secured over 30 corpse crystals. The remaining zombies regained their mobility, and the 2 mutant zombies personally joined the fray. The strength type had insane defense. A punch into the ground left a shallow crater. The sprinter type continued to dart around at high speed. I engaged the strength type first, gathering spirit chi into my palm to take its heavy punch head-on. The massive impact forced me back 2 steps, but the bones in its arm were corroded and shattered by my spirit chi. While it was stunned, my chi blade pierced straight through its skull. A yellowish-brown tier 1 spirit crystal dropped out. Seeing this, the sprinter zombie turned and tried to flee. I activated an invisibility talisman, circled around to block its escape route, and finished it with a precise hand chop. The 2nd Science Spirit Crystal was mine. Having lost their leaders, the remaining horde fell into chaos. I cleared them out one by one. An hour and a half later, every roaming zombie in the industrial park had been exterminated. Taking inventory of my loot, 97 ordinary corpse crystals, 2 cyan tier 1 spirit crystals, and 1 yellowish-brown tier 1 spirit crystal. Next, I headed to the strategic supply depot beneath the administration building. I pried open the alloy doors. Inside were mountains of military compressed rations, purified water, medical supplies, and cold weapons. I dumped all these supplies straight into my storage bag. The sky was darkening. The mist was about to envelop the city. Back in my room, I took all the spirit crystals into the pocket realm. Seeing the mountain of crystals, even Seniorly couldn't help but marvel. To gather so many in a single day, this is enough for you to break through to the peak of the 4th layer of chi gathering, and even learn the spirit shield art. The spirit shield art, condensing spirit chi into a protective barrier to block physical attacks, and zombie toxin corruption. It was the perfect defensive technique against the incoming Mist-Stalker zombies. Seniorly purified all the spirit crystals. I went into secluded cultivation. A massive ocean of spirit chi flooded my body, continuously expanding the chi sea in my dantian. Outside, the city was gradually being devoured by a thick, ash-white fog. Visibility dropped to under 5 meters. Mist-Stalker zombies emerged, constantly ambushing isolated humans. Inside the pocket realm, my cultivation surged from the 3rd layer all the way to the peak of the 4th layer of chi gathering, and I successfully mastered the spirit shield art. The faint white membrane of spirit chi could easily withstand a full-force attack from a Tier 1 mutant zombie. It will be another day before the mist fully engulfs the city. Mist-Stalker zombies fear spirit chi fluctuations. You can release your spirit chi aura to intimidate lower-tier entities. Seniorly handed me 3 invisibility-breaking talismans. These can forcefully reveal all invisible targets within a 50-meter radius. I solemnly stored them away. Right now, my strength stood at the absolute apex of the current apocalypse. Those regressors who had awakened top-tier powers couldn't even begin to compete with me, an orthodox immortal cultivator. Passing through the door, I returned to reality. Outside my window, the thick, ash-white mist had completely blanketed everything. Visibility was less than 3 meters. Cell phone signals were dead. Every survivor base had been reduced to an isolated island. I channeled the spirit shield art, and a faint white film of spirit chi enveloped my body. My spirit chi senses fed back information. Inside the stairwell of my apartment building, there were already the auras of 2 Mist-Stalker zombies. They were waiting right outside my door for me to open it. In my past life, countless survivors had fallen prey to Mist-Stalker zombies. They had no fixed physical form and could temporarily phase out of reality, making them invisible to normal sight. But the precision of my spirit chi senses far surpassed any Esper ability. I activated an invisibility-breaking talisman. Invisible ripples radiated outward, and the 2 half-phased, pitch-black bodies outside my door were forced to materialize, looking like twisted shadows, constantly slamming their phased limbs against my door. Capitalizing on the 10 seconds they were revealed, I violently yanked the door open and swung my chi blade consecutively. The 2 Mist-Stalker zombies collapsed instantly, dropping pitch-black special corpse crystals from their cranial cavities. Seniorly had mentioned that Mist-Stalker crystals contained faint spatial energy, making them far more valuable than standard Tier 1 spirit crystals. Pocketing the ink-black crystals, I decided to head to the nearest large survivor base to gather intel. Walking through the dense fog, the faint spirit chi radiating from my spirit shield automatically repelled crowds of low-tier Mist-Stalkers. 40 minutes later, massive bonfires and floodlights appeared ahead, the East City Survivor Base, founded by dozens of regressors. Seeing me approach, the guards immediately raised their weapons and shouted, "Halt! Non-base personnel are forbidden from approaching." The person in charge walked out. It was none other than the regressor squad captain I had run into twice before. Seeing me, his expression grew complicated. "You're actually still alive, and you're moving alone through the mist. What exactly is your power?" His tone was laced with wariness. 3 Mist-Stalker zombies infiltrated the base, and we can't track them at all. If you're willing to help, the base can offer you a massive amount of supplies as payment. I agreed and entered the base. Over 200 survivors were huddled in the supermarket lobby. The wounds of the injured were starting to fester. Several sensory-type espers looked pale and exhausted, still unable to lock onto the Mist-Stalkers. I activated an invisibility-breaking talisman. All hidden targets within 50 meters materialized. The 3 pitch-black Mist-Stalker zombies were hiding on top of the supermarket shelves, preparing to ambush the crowd. Everyone present was utterly shocked. I leaped into the air, my chi blade flashing as I instantly executed all 3 zombies, bagging 3 ink-black crystals. Every survivor looked at me with deep reverence. The previously arrogant espers were completely eclipsed in my presence. The captain handed over the base's stockpiled canned food and drinking water as payment, while also dropping a massive piece of intel. According to memories from our past lives, 3 days after the mist arrives, the very first Tier 2 Commander zombie will spawn beneath the clock tower in the center of the city. In the previous timeline, countless powerhouses tried to raid it, and they were almost entirely wiped out. Top-tier Espers and Regressors have already headed there in advance to set up their strategies. A Tier 2 Commander Zombie was equivalent to a cultivator at the 5th layer of Chi gathering or higher. Even I wasn't entirely confident I could beat it. But I memorized the intel, politely declined the invitation to join their base, and returned home with the supplies. Over the next 2 days, I traversed the dense fog, hunting down 15 Mist-Stalker zombies and collecting 5 ink-black spirit crystals. Relying on the massive influx of spirit crystals, my cultivation broke through to the 5th layer of Chi gathering. The durability of my spirit shield doubled, and I also learned the spirit Chi binding art. The mist was about to dissipate. The city's absolute top-tier powerhouses were converging on the clock tower in the city center. The major factions had temporarily set aside their conflicts, preparing to join forces against the Tier 2 Commander Zombie. A massive battle that would determine the fate of the city's survivors was about to begin. But as for me, relying on immortal cultivation techniques and the resources of the Pocket Realm, I was already fully prepared for everything. While others were fighting to the death just to survive, I was simultaneously harvesting high-tier corpse crystals and steadily advancing my cultivation base. In this global apocalyptic catastrophe, the immortal cultivation pocket realm connected to my bathroom destined me to become the absolute strongest, standing above all others. The foresight of regressors, the innate talents of espers. In the face of the orthodox Great Dao of immortal cultivation, they were nothing but insignificant stepping stones.